These are the faces of some of the most terrifying serial killers in the world. Evil individuals capable of committing monstrous acts against other human beings. And today on Fearlist, we're revealing the 20 worst serial killers ever documented. Starting with Harold Shipman, a British doctor turned murderer known as Dr. Death, who was officially convicted of killing 15 elderly patients. But between 1975 and 1998, he is believed to have taken the lives of around 250 people. He prescribed lethal doses of medication and even forged wills to make himself the beneficiary. After being sentenced to life in prison, he was found dead in his cell in 2004. Next is Luis Garavito, a Colombian killer, also known as La Bestia, responsible for at least 193 deaths, possibly more than 300. Committed between 1992 and 1999 across Colombia, Ecuador, and Venezuela. He disguised himself as a priest, farmer, beggar, or even a teacher to lure children and teens with gifts or job offers. His crimes were beyond disturbing, and after confessing to 190 murders, he was sentenced to 1,853 years in prison, the longest sentence in Colombia's history. Pedro Alonso, also from Colombia, operated between 1969 and 1979 and is believed to have killed over 350 girls. In 1980, he led police to 53 burial sites. He was later institutionalized in a psychiatric facility and managed to escape in 1998. He's been missing ever since, with new crimes attributed to him, making him one of the most dangerous fugitives in modern history. Miyuki Ishikawa, a Japanese midwife, committed her crimes during the 1940s in post-war Japan. Due to extreme poverty, she believed it was her duty to reduce birth rates by letting newborns die from neglect and starvation. She turned this horror into a business with her husband and a corrupt doctor, accepting money from poor parents who couldn't afford to raise a child. Over 103 deaths were confirmed, but estimates suggest over 169 babies lost their lives due to her actions. Javed Iqbal from Pakistan confessed to killing 100 homeless children, dissolving their bodies in acid to destroy evidence. He sent a confession letter to the police and media, was arrested in 1999, sentenced to death, to be cut into 100 pieces and dissolved in acid, mirroring the fate of his victims. However, he died by suicide in prison before the sentence could be carried out. Mikhail Popkov, a former Russian cop known as the Werewolf, committed dozens of murders between 1992 and 2010. His victims were mainly sex workers or intoxicated young women. He was sentenced to life in prison in 2015. After confessing to 78 murders, a number that later rose to 83 and possibly more, Daniel Barbosa, another Colombian serial killer, is believed to have murdered between 150 and 180 girls across Colombia and Ecuador from 1974 to 1986. Convicted for 72 murders. He was eventually killed in prison in 1994 by a relative of one of his victims. Pedro Rodrigues Filho, or Pedrinho Matador, a Brazilian serial killer who claimed over 100 victims, including his own father. Many of his crimes happened inside prison, although sentenced to over 400 years. He was released in 2007, rearrested in 2011, and released again in 2018. In 2023, he was killed in the streets of Mogi das Cruzes. Yang Xinhai, a Chinese murderer, was active between 1999 and 2003, committing 65 murders in rural homes. He tied up victims and killed entire families, earning the nickname Monster Killer. In 2004, he was sentenced to death and executed just 13 days later. Samuel Little is considered the deadliest serial killer in U.S. history, linked to 93 victims, all women. Between 1970 and 2005, he received 3 life sentences and died in prison in 2020 at age 80. While incarcerated, he sketched portraits of his victims from memory, which the FBI later released publicly. Andrei Chikatilo, the butcher of Rostov from the Soviet Union, also known as the Red Ripper, committed cannibalistic murders, likely influenced by childhood starvation during the 1930s famine, when his own brother was reportedly eaten. Arrested in 1990 and convicted for 53 murders, he was executed in 1994. Gary Ridgway. The Green River Killer is the second deadliest in U.S. history after Little. He targeted vulnerable young women, between 1980 and 1990 and was convicted of 48 murders, though the real number might exceed 90. He received 48 life sentences without parole in 2003. Alexander Pichushkin, known as the chessboard killer in Russia, aimed to kill one person for every square on a chessboard, 264 in total.